In Europe, we have a much more mature market, and we've got much more mature charging infrastructure as well. They're fairly well aligned with each other. In the US, we don't really have that. We've got a fairly immature charging infrastructure network, and the market is much less mature as well. A lot of that is being driven by policy differences. So in the US, we do not have a kind of unified policy for decarbonization of transport. While in Europe, we do. We have a target of getting rid of all internal combustion vehicles by 2035, and we're making good progress toward that goal. So those policy differences really drive that. Yeah, so the perception of barriers is generally more important than the barriers themselves. So as an example, most consumers will say there's not enough charging, but they haven't actually attempted to own an EV and attempted to charge it. So they don't really know. However, they hear that there's not enough charging, and therefore that's part of their reality. So part of our goal is really to educate consumers, help them understand where charging is, give them the tools they need so they can find that charging, and allow them to get from point A to point B with very simple and easy to use routing systems. The emerging markets are emerging because usually a wealth gap compared to the more mature markets. And even though policies can support this, if people are not particularly wealthy, they're probably not going to be looking for an EV, especially with today's prices. Now, as we've seen just coming from this event here, there are a lot of new EVs coming out, and many of them are much lower cost. So we do think there will be some more options in the future where these people can afford an EV, but still it will be a premium option for the next few years at least. Charging innovations are all over the place. We see a lot of different announcements almost every few months. One of the most important ones is battery-supported charging. And so these are chargers that have batteries built in, or they're connected to a battery bank somewhere nearby. And that allows people to install very high-power chargers at a location that doesn't necessarily have access to a high-powered grid connection. Yes, you do pay more up front, but as an example, I just saw a particular advertisement for a charger that's $80,000, which is not so bad considering it's got a large battery pack installed in it, and it still allows you to charge at 250 kilowatts with a very small connection to the grid. So that's one type of kind of accessibility innovation, allowing more people to have access to higher power charging that I think will really make a big difference in the future. Yeah, so we do see a lot of difference in infrastructure deployment in different countries. So a good example is Norway, where almost all new vehicles being sold are electric vehicles. However, their infrastructure is much smaller compared to some other countries, and that's even on a perspective of per BEV charging infrastructure. And the reason for that is that many people in Norway have access to private off-street parking. So they don't really need public charging infrastructure. Other countries like Germany is a good example, where not that many people have off-street parking. There's a lot of public charging available. And so it really depends on how people plan to use the charging and what historical patterns we see in that usage. Yeah, in the US, we do see a wide range of ratios of EVs to chargers. Naturally, that ratio should change as the market matures and evolves. So in the very beginning of a market moving into electric vehicles, we should see somewhere around 1 to 4, 1 to 5 EVs per charger. As that market matures, it should get closer to 1 to 20. In the US right now, we see a pretty wide range, all the way from 1 to 4 up to 1 to 18 currently. And that reflects the fact that the markets are in fact quite different for each state. Some states like California that are really quite mature, maybe they don't have as much charging as we think they need to, but they're at least moving in the right direction. They're still installing more chargers. There are other states that really are not accelerating their charger deployment, and those ratios are starting to lag severely. So we do see that some of these states need to ramp up their efforts significantly, and it's not all a government action that's required. A lot of this is private industry action that's required as well.